what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, Confucius once said about starting a business, needing insurance is like a parachute. If it isn't there, chances are you won't be needing it in the future. Today, our guest is Brian Garrison with On Point Consulting, who works to help businesses with their insurance needs. We'll talk about what you need to know about insurance to start your business. Plus, I'll see how many insurance jokes I can throw in. So strap yourselves in for an exciting show. We'll also have our Small Business of the Month feature, where we'll recommend some interesting businesses that you should be checking out. My name is Jeff Newell. I'm your host and director of the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina. Unfortunately, my usual sidekick, Gary Muller, is not with us today, but he'll be back soon, and we hope he's doing well. Before we get started with Brian, I wanted to give a shout out to the NC Idea Entrepreneurship Summit, which is going to be held here in North Carolina in Raleigh, November 13th through 15th. You should check that out at ncidea.org. We've had the executive director of NC Idea, Tom Rue, as a podcast guest before. I attended the summit last year. It was outstanding. If you're interested in funding, if you're interested in entrepreneurship resources, if you're interested in innovation, if you're interested in networking with folks who might be able to help your business, you should consider attending the NC Idea Entrepreneurship Summit. And again, that's November 13th through 15th. Check it out at ncidea.org. And if you go, the Manufacturing Solutions Center is going to have a table there at their resource fair, so come check us out. We'd love to say hello. Our guest today is Brian Garrison with On Point Consulting. Brian, how's it going today?
Very, very well. I love this time of year. College basketball getting ready to kick off.
It's getting ready to kick off, and for some of those who have disappointing college football teams, we can't wait for college basketball season to start.
Yes. I'm also a Tar Heel football fan, and these last two losses have been brutal.
They have been very disappointing now, but I appreciate that you're a Tar Heel fan. You're also a graduate of Appalachian State. I know that you spent 20 years as a licensed insurance agent, where you were selling and servicing anything from auto, home, life, health insurance, and you've got the designation of Life Underwriter Training Council Fellow. You're doing a lot of good stuff. In 2020, you started your own business, On Point Consulting, to help businesses and individuals navigate their own insurance needs, right?
That's correct.
And how's the business going?
Doing well. We're really growing and entering into some new markets. Recently, one of our recent partnerships is partnering with some colleges with their NIL programs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll keep the names of the colleges confidential, but basically it's where we go in and provide insurance coaching to these athletes on a football program. And a lot of times when they get a certain NIL deal, obviously comes some additional money. Well, when these athletes have some additional money, they go out and maybe they buy, certain jewelry or rims on their vehicles and doctor them up, whatever.
Or a vehicle.
Anything. So we're there just to kind of guide them along in that process, tell them what they need to do.
Okay. I mean, are you focused on insurance, or are you just more providing more financial advice, or all the above?
It's a little bit of everything, but mostly insurance. Kind of just pointing them in the right direction.
No, and I would think a young athlete, kind of like a young business, probably doesn't think about that. They're bulletproof. They never have to worry about that. But someone that's a young football player who thinks that they're going to be making lots of money, one bad turn, one bad knee injury, they might not be in the game any longer.
That's right.
So anyway, well, that's cool. Well, tell us a little bit about what OnPoint does with insurance, and why did you get started with OnPoint?
Okay, I started OnPoint about 3 years ago, and what makes us a little unique is that we don't sell insurance. We're strictly a advisory consultant, if you will. So individuals and businesses can send over their insurance, and with an unbiased eye, so to speak, we can really look at their policies and really see if there's any gaps. Where are the gaps? Are there areas that they are uninsured, underinsured, or maybe there are areas where they're overinsured, maybe double covered. So it's about finding those gaps in those areas. So that's where we operate, and it's been very good for us.
And are you working with businesses and individuals, or do you have a focus in a certain area?
About 90% of it now is businesses, new businesses getting started, but also businesses that are in that maybe 3 to 4 year range where they've just started and they're trying to iron out some things. They're in a position now where they're making some good money and they're ready to take that next step.
Okay.
So
now, question, do you know what a woman and insurance have in common? Don't answer that. You only get in trouble. They're both expensive, difficult to understand, and what you get is not guaranteed.
Excellent.
Have you heard that one before?
I have not heard that one.
All right. Well,
that's a good one.
You can use that one. Okay. So now
that's a freebie.
That's a freebie. I've got plenty. So now you talked about working with startup businesses. Now, what type of insurance should startup businesses be most concerned about?
Well, there's really 3, and that is a basic. Almost every business owner needs a general liability policy where they can get product liability coverage. That's a big piece in somebody's new business now because more and more people are selling items on Etsy, for example, right? Maybe they're making candles or lotions and they're selling them online.
Right.
Well, they need some product liability, okay, at the core, and they can pick that up under a basic general liability policy. So that's right off. They need to be aware of that. But also now with the platforms on social media that folks are operating on, they need to be mindful of what's called E&O coverage, errors and omissions, or professional liability. Professional liability. Anytime someone now starts a business, they need to be very mindful. If they've got a voice on a certain platform, whether that's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and they're giving advice, counsel, direction, coaching, guidance that has the potential to harm someone. Maybe it's the potential to harm someone medically or financially. You need to be very careful about that. You need to pick up some E&O coverage.
So would it be appropriate that the Mesh Podcast Network have some sort of insurance so when people like you and I get on and start giving out crazy advice, and people, heaven forbid, people listen to us, they could get in trouble?
100%.
All right. Our friends at
Food
the Mesh.
for thought.
All
Food
right.
for thought.
All right. Yeah, I'm not sure how much longer they're going to let me be on this, but anyway. So now you mentioned E&O or errors and omission. Is that something that is more significant when it comes to services, or is that a more general type thing?
It's largely service driven. Folks who are realtors, insurance agents, mortgage brokers, the financial sector, it's largely that. And now one thing that I always get confused about for service providers, like the guy that's going to come over and I've got a tree in my yard and it's a big tree, and if it goes down the wrong way, it might fall on my house type tree. But he's going to do some work on it. And should he be bonded? Should he be insured? Should he be both? And what are the differences in those? It's a great question. Here in North Carolina, let's just call that person the handy person, right? They're coming to do some chores like that around the house. Well, number one, that person is not required to get insurance or a special license. I'll say that special license if he's doing less than $30,000. Okay, those small jobs, it's really his responsibility or her, the responsibility of the individual to get their own general liability policy to cover those acts of negligence. So that way, ideally, in a perfect world, we as the homeowner, if we're hiring someone to do some odd jobs around the house, we would request that they have their own general liability policy. Most of the time, the people that we get know us, we have a strong relationship with them, they trust us, and they wouldn't sue us. But you never know. We live in a very litigious society now. Mm-hmm. But I guess the concern there is, two factors. One, what if he gets hurt? Could he or his family say, you shouldn't have had him working on that rotting or dead tree in the first place? Or you shouldn't have, you knew about that big hole in the back there, or, you knew you had some missing shingles and you posed a risk. You put my husband at risk there. So, we all run the risk there if we don't get a coverage or his certificate of insurance showing that he's covered.
Now, sometimes these guys say, I'm bonded. Now, what does he mean by that, and should I be worrying about that?
Bond is completely different than insurance. All a bond does is say that he will fulfill his contractual duty. That's it. Hey, I'll promise if you hire me to come do this paint job, it'll take me 5 days, and here's what I'll do. I'm bonded. Well, it's just an agreement that you're going to finish that job.
So if he does it in 7 days, do I not have to pay him?
5, 3, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I shouldn't worry so much about someone telling me they're bonded. I really need to make sure they've got the proper insurance.
Insurance first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's helpful to me. So now, when I was doing my extensive Google research before this podcast, I came across something called employment liability protection insurance, and sort of getting into, if I've got a company, I start hiring people. If I upset them, they might try to take legal action against me. Is that something that businesses should start to worry about?
Jeff, it's huge now. Employment practices liability coverages. Okay, so what people need to be aware of there is sexual harassment, discrimination.
We're against these things.
That's right.
Okay,
that's
just
right.
checking.
Yep, but it covers acts of harassment, discrimination, and wrongful termination.
So then we're allowed to do those things?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But it's one of those things. In the past, a lot of companies have really not taken out that kind of coverage. But especially going back to the era, the culture that we're in, where folks sue over anything and everything, it definitely would be in your best interest to have employment practices liability.
So here's a question for you. Why doesn't Santa provide health insurance to his workers? Because they are all elf-employed. Self-employed, get it?
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah. We're past Halloween. We haven't gotten to Thanksgiving, but the Christmas is out there. But anyway, so if I am self-employed, what implications are there for me for getting insurance at this point in time? Is that like, am I looking at Obamacare or stuff if I'm a self-employed person?
Related to health insurance?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, like if you have employees or you're talking about kind of a group policies, it's navigating a very difficult journey now because the rates here in North Carolina, I tell people this, they drastically vary from one insurance company to the next. The most important thing when an employer, a small business owner, is looking for their personal health insurance or their group coverage, make sure that your doctor and the employees make sure that their primary doctor is in the network of that plan. Time and time again, when I review a policy on health insurance, I see someone who they've switched over when it comes time to renew, and their primary care physician or their hospital even that they use is not part of that plan. They don't honor that particular plan. So that's the first thing that they need to do is see, hey, this doctor and this hospital that I go to when I have to go, they're part of the in-network coverage. So you certainly don't want to be out of network. The cost is tremendous.
Mm-hmm. So if I have a small business, starting a small business, are there certain sort of other risks out there that I should be considering or thinking about that I might be able to improve my lot if I found a way to insure against them? What other risks should I be thinking about that are out there that might not come to mind that quickly?
Okay. Well, right now, and I do a nice webinar on cybersecurity, cyber threats. Okay, but specifically, it's not so much where I detail terminology related to cyber threats. It's cyber threats and data breaches and how insurance, a cyber policy, okay, a good cyber policy can protect your business. Okay, what I talk about in a cyber webinar is, first of all, there's kind of different layers. The first layer is you need to incorporate antivirus software, number one. But after that, a good insurance policy, a robust cyber policy will do a couple things. Number one, when you do have a data breach, it will begin the notification of the affected customers, whether it's your employees or your clients.
The policy actually does that?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, they respond with that. Number two, immediately when that claim is filed, a good insurance policy will have a legal team assigned to your case to begin any kind of legal process to go to bat for you. Thirdly, business income loss. You'll have a downtime there where you're trying to get reestablished. It might be 3 or 4 days. It might be 3 weeks. But a good policy will have that loss of business income applied to that. So those 3 components under a cyber policy are critical. But while I'm talking about business loss income, that's another key area that a lot of business owners, especially new business owners, don't really realize that in a general liability policy or other policies, they need to be aware. They need to ask their agent, hey, does this policy does it include loss of business income? Okay? Because when you file a claim, whether it's a liability claim or we're talking about cyber threats, when you have a claim and you have a situation where you're not able to run your business week or month, your policy needs to respond to have income still coming in during that time. So that's a key component I will tell our listeners about loss of business income.
Well, now you were talking about cyber threats, which is unfortunately become a more visible and bigger issue out there at these days. I would think that there are several different risks that maybe insurance helps with, maybe not. But I would think that you mentioned contacting people that whose information might have been part of this, which I don't know. People might get upset and say, "I'm going to sue you."
Right?
Could a cyber policy help me with that?
That's exactly right. There are key endorsements, and that's one of them, Jeff, to make sure that your policy has on that. So it's not standard, but it's an endorsement on that policy to include on that for that protection.
And
yeah.
so that leads me to another question. So I know that there are situations, some have been very public, some not so much, where someone has gotten malware or whatnot into an organization's computer system, and basically they charged ransom to release it. And I've heard this from big companies. I've heard this from small nonprofits, which you scratch your head saying, why is someone messing with a small nonprofit? Maybe because there's fewer barriers to get to that information. Can a cyber policy cover me that where if somebody's saying, well, you pay us $10,000 and we're going to release your data, not that I'm a proponent of negotiating with terrorists, but sometimes you have to make a business decision.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Can a policy help me with that?
It is. One of the things that you're talking about, social engineering, I think that's what the endorsement's actually called under that policy. But that's how that specifically responds to that occurrence. Again, got to be careful. It's not standard in a lot of data breach policies, but it is an endorsement, especially if you have multiple employees and you have a lot of exposure, I'll say, then that kind of social engineering, that response needs to be on there.
And it can be, but it's something
but it's
that
not
you
standard.
It's not standard,
No.
so you better ask for it or investigate it and figure out what it's going to cost you.
And typically you can get up to $100,000 of protection there. So
To pay in ransom.
Yes.
Okay.
Ransom.
Okay. So Brian, do you know the difference between a man and a whole life policy? A whole life policy eventually matures.
That one I like.
Well, you can use that
I
one
like
too.
that one. I'm going to use that one.
We're going to offend both genders today, so we're an equal opportunity offender. So I hope the mesh has good insurance. That's all I can say. So from a business owner perspective, what sort of mistakes do you often see out there? You mentioned sometimes people don't have enough insurance. Sometimes maybe people have too much insurance, and you mentioned gaps. Or are there common errors that people often make in when they're in business about how they approach insurance?
Mainly staying on top of it or forgetting to be proactive with it. One of the key things that I see all the time is when I'm reviewing someone's commercial auto policy for a business, I'll look on there and I'll see, say, a number of vehicles. And as I'm reviewing it with the business owner or business owners, they'll ask me, well, okay, but what about my 2021 Ford 250 that we also use? Or it might be 2 or 3 vehicles. So I look on there and go, well, it's not on there. When did you get it? And they say, had it about a year, maybe 6 or 8 months. The situation, and it's a good thing, when a business starts really growing, multiple employees, you're hiring new employees, you're hiring new drivers, one of the key things that gets missed is someone overseeing to make sure that driver or drivers, new drivers, and new vehicles actually get added on. A lot of times that gap that you're talking about, the company will have someone go to the dealership, go through that process, buy a truck or 2, whatever, and the salesperson there at the car dealership will say, got you taken care of, Jeff. I'll call your insurance company tomorrow and get this sucker added on for you. And he never did. So those things that we kind of rely or we're told, they'll do it. You just need to follow up on it because drivers and vehicles have a funny way or not so funny way of getting missed to be added onto the policy. A second thing that gets missed all the time, there's an endorsement out there, Jeff, called Hired and Non-Owner Auto Endorsement. HNOA, Hired and Non-Owner Auto Endorsement. Here's the exposure for a business. It's missed so frequently. Let's say a business owner, they have an employee who they need, let's say it's after hours or on a weekend. That business owner contacts one of their employees for them to do a specific work errand, something for the business, and it's maybe after hours, maybe it's on a weekend. Well, that employee says, sure, Jeff, I'll be glad to do that. And that employee drives their personal vehicle They're not on the clock, so to speak. Mm-hmm. They take their personal vehicle, and they're on the way to run an errand down in South Carolina, wherever, and they have an accident. It's their fault. It's the employee's fault. They have an accident. They have property damage. They total someone else's vehicle, and they cause some bodily injury in that vehicle. 2 or 3 people are injured. Without that endorsement I just mentioned, that business is exposed to the liability nature there.
Because the person was doing something business related.
That's right. It's an endorsement, and it often gets missed, mm-hmm. but I would encourage especially business owners to look at that. Now, maybe if you don't have employees and you're not at that risk, great. But just be thinking about it down the road. As you hire employees and have vehicles, be mindful. It's nearly nothing premium-wise to add on to that. So it's a phenomenal endorsement to have on there to cover that gap.
Okay, wouldn't have thought about that, but it does bring up the thought of, if I'm I don't know, whatever I'm doing, I've started my own service business, and I'm just using my personal vehicle both for my personal life as well as my business life. Are there certain? I have an insurance policy on my vehicle when I got it registered. Is there something I need to be doing to build it into my business policy?
Yes, and here's what I say to that, Jeff. If you're going to be using your vehicle for a side business, doesn't matter. I tell people, here's what you do. You don't have to go title that to a business, that personal vehicle, but you do need to notify your insurance carrier and classify your vehicle business use. Business use. Mm-hmm. It doesn't require moving it onto a new policy, nothing like that. It just changes what insurance companies call classification of it to business use. So a couple things there. One, if you're audited, right, they can look at one of the first things an auditor will do, believe it or not, they will look at your personal auto policy and see how your vehicle is titled, how it's classed, I should say.
So if I've been taking expenses associated with that vehicle, they want to make sure it's classified as a business vehicle.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
Good to know. That's. Yeah. I suspect most people are taking mileage one way or the other. So that's good to know.
Yep. Business use. Again, sort of the same premise, that other endorsement, the hired and non-owner auto endorsement. This endorsement for business use, pennies on the dollar to add.
We just we're sitting here early November. We just got through Halloween. Are there any nightmare business situations that you've had to live through that could have been avoided if someone had insured their lives a little bit more properly?
Yes, and it's related to insuring their business tools. Yeah. Most everyone in business has tools, business tools and equipment, and on more than one occasion, I've been involved with a situation where folks have been advised to get that policy to cover their tools. No, it's not a big deal. I only have a couple $1,000s worth. Two things. It's a couple $1,000s worth, one, but number two, now you don't have tools to operate your business.
You're pretty much out of business if something happens to them.
Exactly.
Are you talking theft? Are you talking breakage?
Theft. Theft. Yeah. Two of the biggest components is vandalism and theft. But most contractors, if you're got a lawn company, you're worried that someone's going to steal your equipment. Mowers and blowers. So it's what it does. Having insurance, whatever it is, your tools, your cyber, all that, it allows you. A good insurance policy allows you to get back on your feet and get money quicker.
Hmm. Well, that reminds me of a situation where I had a friend whose barn burned down, and his wife called the insurance company and said, our barn was insured for $50,000. I'd like to get our money. And the insurance agent said, well, just hold on. It doesn't work like that. We have to assess the value of the building, and then we'll provide you with a new one of comparable value. And she thought about that for a little bit, and she said, well, if that's the way it works, I'd like to cancel the policy that I have on my husband. I can't tell you who it was. Okay. I mean, it's like a personal story there. Anyway, well, your business is about insurance, but you're also a business person. What sort of challenges, from a business perspective, as a small business owner, have you run into, and how are things going on that front?
Jeff, probably the biggest challenge I faced over the last 2 to 3 years has been managing marketing, sales, appointments, creating invoicing. When you're doing it, like most new business owners, they're sort of bootstrapped. You're trying to maximize your dollar, and most small business owners are asked to wear all those hats. You're trying to be in charge and lead an effort for your marketing team, because you are the marketing team. The social media posts that you need to put out there to get the word out. How do you drive sales? How do you manage your appointments? What system's out there? I was really struggling with that until Laura, my wife, introduced me to a software platform called HubSpot.
Mm-hmm. Heard of it?
So HubSpot is basically a CRM, contact relationship management platform, where once you incorporate HubSpot into your business, Jeff, it's been a lifesaver for me personally and in my business, because it manages your appointments. You can set up marketing emails to go out, automated. It's got chat bots. It's got analytics to track, hey, this website's doing this. It's been absolutely gold, and I highly recommend for small business owners, look, if you're not using something like that, I highly encourage you to look at HubSpot.
And they should be endorsing us. That's we're throwing an endorsement to them. So HubSpot, if you're listening, you need to get on board. Contact the Mesh about promotional opportunities.
Check.
Any other recommendations that you have for our listeners who might be in startup mode?
Be thinking about the end. I know it's kind of weird, but it's not something that I thought about when I started On Point. But in listening to a lot of folks now start their business that have went on to become really, really successful, when they start their business, they have to really face or understand 3 things. Most people have fear, doubt, and uncertainty. Fear, doubt, and uncertainty. So when you as a listener, you're getting ready to start a business, what product that you're introducing to the market, or what service you're introducing to the market, how can you address your client's fear of a product or service, doubt regarding it, or uncertainty about it? How can you use information dissemination to kind of break it down in an easy to understand way? So I would say, when I say, look at the end, where do you want to be? Have this goal 10 years out to say, okay, I would like to be here, and think big. Think, okay, if I can do this successfully one time, I can repeat this 5 times. So in other words, scaling opportunities becomes really, really important.
Okay. Well, I also think you mentioned the fact that when you're in startup mode, you're wearing so many different hats and trying to whether it be HubSpot or other tools out there to assist you in being more efficient and organized. I think that's also good advice as well out there.
Absolutely.
Last question before our lightning round. I need a new roof. Do I have to wait for a hailstorm to get my insurance to pay for it? What do you recommend?
If it's not leaking, wait.
Once it starts leaking, is that when my insurance kicks in?
No. It'd have to be storm related for sure.
Big storms are brewing, brother. Big storms are brewing.
I hear you.
All right.
I catch what you're throwing down.
All right. Brian, we appreciate you. You're actually a return guest to the Entrepreneur Exchange. We appreciate you being back and helping people understand some of the challenges that they face with insurance. As someone that's been in business, started a small business, I don't think that insurance is usually the top thing that comes to mind, but it needs to come to mind, or else bad things could be out there for you. So anyway, you up for our lightning round today?
Let's go.
All right. Today's lightning round is sponsored not by HubSpot, but by Prestige Worldwide, a global entertainment conglomerate and sponsor of the Catalina wine mixer. Entertainment, management, research and development, security, Prestige Worldwide has you covered. Check them out on the internet. So we're going to ask you some quick questions. Don't overthink it. Give us some quick answers. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Slow drivers. Very slow drivers. Let me clarify that.
Slow drivers, people that don't use their blinkers, that make
Thank
you
you.
crazy. Yeah, I'm with you. What topping do you put on your pizza?
Italian sausage.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Okay.
How do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
Absolutely not.
You're right. Beatles, Rolling Stone, or Taylor Swift?
Rolling Stones.
Okay. Favorite Halloween candy?
The Reese's cup.
Peanut butter cup?
Peanut butter cup.
That's
It's certainly not candy corn.
No. Keep your candy corn.
Thank you.
Go with the peanut butter cups. Favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Sweet potato casserole.
That's a good one. Last question for you. Do you have a go-to adult beverage?
The Moscow Mule.
Okay. A sophisticated palate from Mr. Garrison. Thank you very much. Brian, if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
On Point, INSconsulting.com.
Okay. So get out there. You want to learn more about Brian and his business, go out to onpointinsconsulting.com. That's where you'll find him. I suspect if you go to LinkedIn, you'll find him out there as well. But Brian, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on this month's Entrepreneur Exchange. We always like to wind up giving a shout out to small businesses that we've come across. And you got one, Brian, that you want to give a shout out to?
One in particular, Zach Cranford, has done an absolute home run with City Walk Brewery, downtown Hickory here. A number of fantastic beers, got a few snacks, multiple TVs, got a nice outdoor area there with cornhole, got a nice indoor area too that they can lower the doors and you can enjoy the inside too on a night like tonight. But Zach's just done a tremendous job. It's a great atmosphere, and basically since they opened a month ago, they've been covered up every day.
Can I get a Moscow Mule there?
You can.
Okay.
Because out to the side there, they've got a cocktail lounge for adults there.
I don't know. Well, I prefer the adult cocktail lounges myself, but that's just me. Okay. All right, City Walk Brewing, and I will be checking that out soon, and that's in beautiful downtown Hickory, North Carolina. So small business that I want to give a shout out to. I've been working with a group that focuses on outdoor businesses, and through that group, I came across a company called Bellyac, which is a product that is actually a kayak type product that you sort of lie on and you do paddling. And they're manufactured here in North Carolina in the Asheville area. And if you go to bellyak.com, BELLYAK.com, you can see some videos of their products. They've got people going into whitewater as opposed to in a kayak or canoe. They're on their bellies paddling around. They do have helmets on in those rapids, and that if you're going head first down the rapids, probably good to wear a helmet. But they look really cool and just sort of a very unique product. Perhaps one that we should be giving a shout out more in the summertime, not in November when it's starting to cool off a little bit. But you can use them on flat water, you can use them in rapids, and just sort of a cool local product that I wanted to give a shout out to. So anyway, check them out at www.bellyak.com. And if you have a suggestion for our Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, you can email us at eexchange@themesh.tv. And we appreciate your suggestions. And if we use your suggestion, we'll give you one of our Entrepreneur Exchange prize packs. Brian, thank you for being with us today. It is a pleasure to see you and have you on the podcast again.
Let's do it.
And I want to, as always, thank our friends at the Mesh Podcast Network. Please go and check out all of the cool shows they have at themesh.tv. And you'll see the stable of interesting and different podcasts that they've got out there. So check them out there. And we'll look forward to talking with you again next month. Everybody take care.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.